Hi you guys, so for my give up challenge, I decided to give up social media, specifically Instagram because that's the only social media I have. But I decided to give this item up because I think it's something that I'm on every single day and that I use it very often throughout the day, so I considered it would be a true challenge to be off of it. Um, how it plays a role in my daily life, I'm usually on it like when I wake up in the morning, when I am on a break, or when I get bored. Um, and just like when I get home and I want to kind of get distracted from everything that went on during the day, I get on it, but I will scroll on it for hours, which is what the problem is. And then usually right before I go to bed as well. My goal for this challenge is to ultimately not be on Instagram for the next few days, obviously, but also to see if I can be productive during that time and find, other things to do like my homework or my assignment. And at the end of the challenge, I want to see if I'm able to be off Instagram more often. What I think will happen during this week is I do think I'm going to catch myself going on Instagram because it's such a habit for me to just click on the app. Not necessarily, I don't think I'm going to stay on it when I realize that, I clicked on it, but I don't know. We'll see. But for sure, I do think I'm going to click on the app a few times. And what my thoughts are about giving this up. I actually do feel a little embarrassed to admit that I am on Instagram so often and so much to the point where I consider it to be a challenge and that I think it's going to be difficult to stay off of it. So I think it's a little embarrassing to admit that. But I do think it will be an interesting experience that I know my husband will appreciate because he thinks I'm on Instagram all the time. So we'll see how it goes. So I finally completed my give up challenge and I gave up social media or Instagram for 3 days. My experience was a bit challenging in that I found it very difficult to stay away from the app itself. I wasn't on Instagram scrolling, but I did catch myself clicking the app so many times, and there was times that I was just sitting around and I really wanted to get on Instagram, so that was the difficult part. What was positive, I think, was that I was able to use my time wisely and complete homework or other things around the house that I really wanted to get done, and usually would take me forever to get done because I'm on Instagram for so long. Was I successful at meeting my goals? I would say that despite clicking on the app so many times, I would say I did meet my goal because I think the part that really I feel affects me about being on Instagram is how long I'm on it and just wasting my time scrolling and posting pictures and all that stuff. But so I didn't do that these 3 days, so I do feel like I met my goal. And did you experience any relapse? I guess I would say I did because I clicked on the app. Like I wasn't able to completely stay away from it. So I guess I would say that I did experience relapse, and how that made me feel about myself was, at some points I felt like I failed, and I was very frustrated with myself and really annoyed. I kind of wanted to start all over again. So it really made me think about how people that are going through a real addiction, how they feel when they relapse, the different thoughts that may have about themselves, and how they be very hard on themselves, and how much more difficult their recovery could be. So it really made me understand that aspect a little bit more. And how did it feel to see other people using it? So the first day I was with my husband and we went out the entire day, and seeing that he was able to get on Instagram and post things, I thought I would be a little more frustrated with it, but I really wasn't. I actually don't like him being on it at all when we're together, but it wasn't too difficult. It wasn't too hard as I thought it would be. I kind of felt more like, oh, at least you can get on it. Like, at least you post it. I'm not able to post something, so at least you do it. And then when he would be on it, it really wouldn't bother me as much as I thought it would. How did this affect my thoughts and feelings and behaviors? I think it really made me think about self-control, and I remember being super annoyed every time I would click on the app, and because I told myself, I know I'm not gonna get on the app. I'm gonna try my very best, and consciously I'm going to be aware of it, and I know I have to complete this challenge, so I'm really going to try, and it's only for 3 days, so I'm going to be able to stay off of it. So when I would just automatically, without even thinking about it, click on the app, I would get so annoyed because I was like, really? Ugh, you just clicked on it like 5 minutes ago. How can you forget so quickly? And so it was really annoying, but it just made me think like how scary it could be to feel like you don't have control, because you think you can if you say I'm not going to be on it, especially considering that it's not like a substance, where your body is asking for it. Like, so I thought, I could, control myself a little more, but it really is a scary feeling to realize you really don't have control sometimes, that you just, it's a habit that you do it so often that it's so hard to just stop. So it was kind of scary. And then also, like, in terms of my behavior, it made me realize that, there's so many other things I could do instead of being on Instagram. So it made me think of people with addictions, like, how it must take them away from things that are more meaningful and more important in their life, and how difficult it might be for them to realize that, like the ones that know that they've lost their jobs, their families, and because their time everything has been taken up by this addiction. And how did it change my pre-existing beliefs about substances? In the book, they talk about, they had a quote where they said something about, we don't know how hard it is to resist temptation until you've, maybe gone through it. And it's true. I never thought giving up an addiction would be easy, but I now understand how many different roles, how many factors play into giving something up. And, like who your support system is. Do you have one or not? Do you have the role that this substance plays in your life, or this behavior plays in your life? Like, for example, for me, it was helping me like de-stress and just kind of take my mind off of all the challenging things that were happening in my life. That when I gave it up, I was like, no, what do I do to de-stress? And so to think about someone with a real addiction, if they use it to cope with depression, or to cope with anxiety, or to cope with something that they're struggling in their life, how important it is to find, or get that those mental health services to help you with that part of it, like finding the replacement behavior, because otherwise I can see how easily it would be to just relapse. And also it made me think of how useful the harm reduction model would be. Going from using Instagram and then the next day completely being off of it, it was hard. Like, I noticed that I would click on the app, and it wasn't until a few days later that I was little by little realized that I'm no longer getting on the app. And I know I only did it for 3 days, but the 4th day I didn't get on Instagram right away. I got on it later in the day. So it made me realize, like, as time went by, it was easier, and I realized I wasn't on the app or clicking on the app as much. So I could see how the harm reduction model would work, and how much easier it would be to go through it little by little than just completely ending something from one day to another. And now that the challenge is over, what was it like to use the item again? Like I said, when I got back on it, actually, I didn't say this, but when I got back on it, I realized that I felt bad, and I felt like I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. And I mean, I did get back on it, so I've been using it, and it hasn't been that long since I got back on it, so I don't know. I've been busy, so I haven't been on it as much as I usually do, but usually it's during the week that I use it the most. But yeah, I did feel bad about being back on it. Like, I felt like I was doing something wrong, but eventually that feeling kind of went away. But I think this entire experience was a great way of helping us understand a little bit more of addiction, and I'm really glad I was able to do it. Thanks.